Here, my name is Dr. Matt. I've been helping people get into med school for over a decade, and today we are I think we'll probably stay on maybe somewhere in the range of 20 minutes or something. So if you have questions about the MCAT, if you have questions about applying to medical school, if you are about to turn in your app today or whatever is going on your journey, let me know. If you're a pre-med or you're thinking of being a pre-med, let me know what stage of the journey to medical school you are jumping in from, and let's kind of see. I wonder what our let's actually ask this time. Let me know what your questions are about getting into medical school, how to ace the MCAT, and more. If you are a pre-med student, let me know how close you are to applying. And let's drop a comment here. So guys, drop your questions here and let me know what stage of the pre-med or med school life cycle you are on. All right. And it looks like we have our first question in from Yes. All right. What's the latest I can send my app in the cycle? Okay, so as you guys may know, the summertime is when medical schools are looking through everybody's applications and deciding who to invite for interviews. Traditionally, students really try to get their applications in a lot of times, as early to the beginning of June as they can, but it's not the end of the world if you are submitting it a couple weeks into the cycle. In my opinion, it's not even the end of the world if you apply a couple months into the cycle if you are applying with a strong app. And I think that's kind of the big question is, are you using the extra couple of months for good reasons, right? Like either you're writing a really strong application and it just wouldn't have been the same, or you're writing you're retaking the MCAT and you're getting better and better at the MCAT, and then in that case it can definitely benefit you quite a lot. All right, let me change our header here. Let's go with ask Dr. Matt about the MCAT and med school apps. And let's see, 97th we'll drop our cred stats here. 97th percentile scorer, MD, 10 plus years coaching MCAT and apps. All right, there we go. See if we can fit that all on screen. There we go. I need to copy something like this over to YouTube someday. All right. PCHD says, are you doing residency? No, I am a biotech co-founder. Next one. Okay, I think we're at the bottom of the list right now. Let's jump over. Now we do. I think. Let me see. I have a fun topic here. All right. Okay. So this is what we're going to do. Yes. So we have a question that says, do you do personal statement reviews? I not only do personal statement reviews, I have probably read more personal statements for MCAT for medical school applications than any human you will ever meet, with the exception of somebody who's on an actual med school admissions committee. You will probably never meet somebody who has read more than I have. I have a lot of guidance that I offer, especially this time of year, on what you should be looking for, how to both use a hook but sound genuine, whether you're demonstrating empathy, what kind of things in your essay can be alarming for them to read, what makes them sound like cookie cutter essays. These are all things that we talk about. If you are interested in doing a personal statement review, just drop me a line. In fact, am I able to direct reply? How does this work? Let's see. Reply. Yes. Drop me a line, MCATboss.com, and we can set up a session to review your essay as soon as this evening. All right. Isaac says, are you hiring MCAT tutors? Isaac, feel free to drop me if you have like a resume or something you want to drop me, just matt@mcatboss.com. As the volume grows, I'm not opposed to, for people who are exceptionally talented at the MCAT, but also really talented at doing the grunt work of actually working with people. Just let me know. All right, guys. Let me see. So I think what we're gonna do here is we're going to go ahead and let's chat about some of the most common MCAT myths. So the most common MCAT myth is that the MCAT tests highly advanced science concepts. Highly advanced science concepts. So a lot of times I will get yes, that is yes for that. So that is the email, matt@mcatboss.com. And the pricing totally depends on how much time the student needs to work on reviewing it, but I can send you that typically within like 5 minutes of the end of the live today. I can get you a price sheet out. I also have a pretty chunky discount for students who actually book the same day as the live. So just make sure to reply as quickly as you can, and I can get that out to you right away. Okay, so the most common MCAT myth is that it says highly advanced upper level science. And a big part of this, I think, comes from the fact that when you read an MCAT passage, a lot of times it will feel like you are reading a really advanced science textbook or something like that. And it is completely understandable that students feel like if they're reading something that could be advanced enough to be like a master's level thesis or something, that this is in fact an indication that this is like master's level science on the MCAT. And it's actually not. A lot of times, even the most advanced MCAT passages are testing really, really, really basic stuff. I think students are always a little bit surprised by how basic the science is on the MCAT. Now, that said, across those basic sciences, the MCAT has a lot of range. So even though it does not have a lot of depth, the MCAT has a lot of range. So you can be sure that even if you know every single thing there is to know about biology, that if you don't also have the chemistry and the physics and the psychology and the sociology at least sort of at end of freshman year level, that you're going to feel like some of the stuff on there is very strange. The other section of the MCAT is, I would say, probably the most famous for internet lore, and that is the cars section. And the cars section, it's essentially the critical reading section of the MCAT is it's a favorite of everyone's least favorite topics because it covers a whole lot of really, 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 really abstract, random, challenging stuff that people really do not like. It can be history. I do see, Ahmed, I do see your message there. Thank you for dropping an email over to me. That is great. I will get you, you know what? I will actually get you that info right now. So while we're waiting on the next question to come in, I will get you that info right now. And we do have, just because things are moving really quickly with the application cycle, I try to get these out to people right now. And here we go. Guys, I do try to respond super, super fast if you need help. And there we go. All right. Okay. Guys, if you have questions, you can drop me a line. You can drop me a general question here. And then if you have any personal statement reviews, essay reviews, you need help jumping your MCAT score, just drop a line at mcatboss.com or direct email matt@mcatboss.com. And if you have any questions here about sort of the process of becoming an MCAT student, a pre-med, any of those things, let me know what your questions are, and I'm happy to tackle any general question here. Sometimes people do ask me more specific questions about their apps or their journey. Navi says, I just graduated high school. Is it too late for me? So it depends. If you're wanting to become a doctor and your goal is to become a doctor through the classical path of going high school, college, and then like an MD or a DO program, in that direction, you do not need to have anything figured out in your first semester or two. All you need to do is make sure you do really well in your science courses. That's literally it. As soon as you get into your first semester, though, besides keeping your GPA up, you do want to have an eyeball on what science courses are prerequisites for applying to med school. You do not have to, and I really want to drive this point home. You don't have to be a pre-med major. You don't have to be a biology major or a biochemistry major. I wasn't even any of those things. I was a math major. And as long as you take your physics, chemistry, biology, psych, and sociology courses that are prerequisites, you can do anything. As CG says, I was a dance major. Exactly. Anything that you want to. You can do women's studies. You can do the history of, the history of Aboriginal Australian art, like any major that your college offers. In fact, I actually think it's a benefit to doing a non-traditional major. Thank you guys for tapping that like and getting us up to 100. I think that it is valuable to be a more interesting, different applicant, almost more than being a traditional applicant. Once, I will say, I'll wrap it up with, once you get to your second year, you do actually want to have a goal in mind for when you will be taking the MCAT. So by the end of your second year, beginning of your third year, I think that's a good time to start studying for the MCAT. Yoselin says, I'm having a hard time to determine what I want to do for undergrad biochem or nursing. The only reason I would want to do nursing is to help pay for med school. I completely understand the sentiment there. I think in reality, if you end up working as a nurse to save up enough for medical school. So medical school a lot of times costs like $200,000 to $300,000. If you work long enough to be a nurse to save up for medical school, you will probably be forfeiting a couple $1 million in physician income doing it that way. So I don't know that I would recommend doing that. Just something to think about. The next question says, what do you think of accelerated 3 years MD programs? I'm not super familiar with, I am familiar with the fact that there are some 3-year medical residencies for certain types of specialties, especially for like family medicine. There are a couple accelerated residencies. I think there might even be a couple like 2-year, 2.5 year residencies. And I don't think I can think of an accelerated MD program off the top of my head, but I'm curious to hear more. Next question says, you still enjoy doing math? Yes, it still plays a role in research. It still plays a role in how I, present at conferences, things like that. The kind of math I used to do when I was a mathematician has contributions to the theory behind things like the genetics and aging research. But it's not, I don't get to do like theoretical math in the sort of classical sense anymore. Next one says, how's a 5'11" and 3.95 for MD, assuming we have several hundred hours in research, clinical, those are strong numbers. Yeah, as long as you have, we do still see, with numbers like that, we do still see some students, I want to say maybe 35% of students with those numbers still do not get in. So it's still really important to have a strong, essay, personal statement, a strong, narrative ability to talk about what you've been doing is really important. I should leave this on here just so you guys are able to. So I am the founder of MCATboss.com. So please do feel free, guys. If you need help with any of those other aspects of the app, let me know how I can help you. Next one says, Meharry with TSU. TSU Meharry has an accelerated 7-year program. Oh, interesting. Please do. So I have friends at Meharry, including one of my research colleagues in medical genetics is at Meharry. It's a super dope school. But yeah, I'm not familiar with the accelerated program. I'm curious is the 7 years like a 4? Is it 4 years of med school and 3 years of residency, or it's 4? I assume from the TSU comment, it's like a 4-year bachelor's plus med school. My guess, and again, this is not super important or anything, but my guess is to do an accelerated program like that, it is probably a 3-year accelerated bachelor's with 4 years of med school. Just the only reason I say that is because Meharry is turning out MDs, and the amount of material you have for an MD is already super. It's really, really like an intense schedule to do med school in 4 years to begin with. I'm guessing that the acceleration is coming from the undergrad, but I'd be curious to hear more. Guys, thank you for helping us hit 266 on the likes. Next one says, let's see. Does your math background help with your approach problems in medicine? Yes. Yes. I would say for me, the way that it interacts sort of with my role now. So now that I'm an MD, I work on neurodegenerative disease, and the training in math helps me to be able to parse the kind of statistical anomalies that we see when we have diseases that appear to be well treated, but then they don't get better. And so a disease, like I primarily work on developing therapies for Alzheimer's, the disease has all of these apparent correlations with certain biomarkers, like certain plaques in the brain. And the math background helps me be able to explain, in research conferences and presentations and things, why the appearance of a correlation is not the same thing as a causal link between like a biomarker and a disease. So it's a little bit like if somebody told you that, like, eating chicken has a particular correlation with cancer, but then they're in a country with where everybody eats chicken, right? It doesn't. It may be that most cancer patients have eaten chicken, but that wouldn't mean that you should assume that eating chicken some way has a causal correlation with it. So that kind of nuanced parsing of the data is a big part of why it helps. Martina, what would you say to high school seniors who want med school but are unsure and want to make the right choice? I would say if you're not entirely sure about whether you want to go into medical school, it's a very, very real, it's a very real, it's a decision dilemma, right? Like medical school is a long track. I would say think carefully about how long the track is, but also it's okay to have some uncertainty when you don't know that much about life. And what I mean by that is like the idea that you're going to give up most of your 20s to medical school. If you're doing it as a traditional student, you're going to give up most of your 20s to go to medical school. And that spooks some people. What's worth keeping in mind, of course, is that you are going to live through your 20s no matter what. Like your 20s are going to go by. Somebody said that is correct. Me, myself, and I said that's correct. TSU 3 years and Meharry 4 years. That makes perfect sense. And that's an awesome option, by the way. I think more of the bachelor's and MD programs are probably going to combine like that. To loop back around real quick for Martina's question about high school seniors not being sure. You want to see a combination of things, right? You want to think about how do you want to use your 20s, but also keep in mind your 20s are going to go by and you're going to have friends who finish their 20s and they're still, they're still hanging out at the same places and doing the same stuff. And they maybe finished college, maybe didn't. And they're working at the same job they were working at when they were 19. And if you gave up your 20s to become a doctor and you end your 20s, but you're a doctor and you're making a doctor's salary and you're contributing to society and you're doing all of this stuff that you find fulfilling, then it can be a worthy path. But think about it and get involved with shadowing a few different physicians with different specialties to see if the experience of being in medical school or in medical practice is something that you think is good. Let's see. User says, that's super interesting. Thank you. I'm still figuring things out as a first year, so I'm gathering all the perspectives. Yeah. I assume you're saying a first year college student, unless you're saying a first year med student, but feel free to let me know kind of what anything else I can help with. Cookie says, applying for spring admission to colleges for pre-med, should I do Gen Bio and Chem at a community college before 4 year? I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I know some people are quite opposed to that. And, I do not think there's anything wrong with it. Guys, thank you for following and sharing. I really appreciate that. And thank you for hitting the likes. Help us get this out to more pre-meds. Again, for those of you guys who are just jumping on, I'm Dr. Matt. I'm an MD. I work on neurodegenerative disease, but I am one of the most experienced pre-med coaches and MCAT tutors in the country. I've actually been doing this for more than 10 years, so I don't even know how many doctors I've helped create, but I really like helping people. I've also been how do I put this? I have been a practice test writer, senior level coach, and or a national curriculum consultant for 3 different MCAT companies. So let me know how I can help you guys. And don't forget, you can drop a line at mcatboss.com if you need more personal help on your path into that white coat. Okay. Next one says, oh, I'm sorry. I did not answer Cookie's question. I think I did. I do think that community colleges are a totally fine way to get more science credit and save money on tuition. I personally recommend them all the time. I did some of my science courses at a community college, and I got interview requests at almost 100% of the schools I applied to, and I got multiple acceptances and scholarship offers. So I don't think there's anything wrong. Now, the other side of that is that I worked really hard and learned the MCAT well, and I never took an MCAT course, but I taught myself. I became an MCAT tutor, but I scored really well on the MCAT. So they didn't have questions about whether I had really, truly learned the science at those courses at the community colleges, because I proved that I did. Next one says, TikToker says, do you have advice for studying for the MCAT while working full time? I absolutely do, because that is what I did, and I made it really successful. I'm going to give you sort of the general advice, and then I'm going to say, if you want something more specific, drop me a line, set up a session. But the general advice is find the number of MCAT question bank questions that you can tackle per day consistently and stick with it. And then don't rush yourself. Give yourself a few months. Next one says, what's an accurate undergrad GPA range? Are the current numbers 3.8 average inflated? I do think that that's the fact that I believe the national accepted average GPA is like 3.81. I had a 3.82 and I had good luck with that. I think that you can definitely get in with a lower GPA. Plenty of people do. But you really do have to have a strong MCAT and a strong story, a strong personal story, a strong personal essay. This is why I do essay coaching also. And you have to interview well. Like, you have to be able to carry a conversation with a human and sound like a normal, decent, empathetic human. And if you do not have the ability to do that, then it doesn't matter if you have a 4.0 and a 525 on the MCAT. But if you do, you should be okay. That's not a bad number. Next one says, how can I get clinical hours if I already have a full-time job? That was one of the challenging parts for me. You really do have to figure out, like, even if you find like a emergency room physician, or you walk into an urgent care and you're like, who's the doctor? And then talk to the doctor and be like, hey, is it possible for me to come in on Saturdays and Sundays? It is like working 2 full-time jobs to prep for medical school applications and work a full-time job. I do not beat around the bush with that at all. Like, it really is like a double full-time job. And if you're up for it, you can make it happen. I graduated med school at almost 40 because, it was quite a journey to do it that way, but it can work. Ian says, I'm taking OChem 5-week class right now. Any tips handling such high volumes of content? Ian, best of luck. I took one of my OChems on a summer term like that. It is intense. I have no shortcuts for you with OChem. So best of luck with it. Braden says, how did you do on step 1 and 2? So I actually didn't study for very long on step 1 and 2, and then I ended up taking step 2 when I was really severely ill. I had pneumonia, and I actually I was so sick I I think I fell asleep through probably a third of the test. So I did fairly well. I did not do like 100th percentile well. I probably would have had to reschedule for that, but happy with my results. Leo says, have you seen the 2026 MCAT? If so, what are some tips and tricks you can give us? So Leo, there's this weird, like, almost hype myth around the 2026 MCAT and how different it is. I tutor the MCAT every single day for the last 13 years, 10 plus years, like full time, basically. And I do not think it's that different. I don't know what this is other than like a TikTok trend to say it's super different. But I don't think it's that different. I think more of the questions now might be trying to be even more sort of contextually obscure, but apply to very basic concepts. And what I mean by that is, you mentioned something super specific, right? Like glucose 6-phosphate acts as a non-covalent inhibitor for a regulator for another enzyme. And it sounds really, really, really fancy, but in reality, they're just asking, like, why is this inhibitor acting non-covalently? Well, it's so that it can, act at a site outside of the active site. There's like really basic concepts dressed up really, really fancy. But even that is something that's been going on for the MCAT for a long time. So drop me a line if I can help you, mcatboss.com. Soph says, what do you think about a 506 MCAT for MD schools? Plenty of people still get in. Plenty of people still get in with a 506 if you have a good GPA and a good app, but you do have to apply pretty broadly and consider local schools and backup plan with a DO application also. Ian says, spamming synthesis questions help me. Some mechanisms just won't make sense when you, that's good advice. John says, how many clinical hours should I get to be competitive? You want it to be somewhere in the hundreds, right? You don't want it to be just a couple you don't want to just go in with like 40 clinical hours, and you don't need thousands. You want it to be in that couple hundred range. Crimson says, does working in healthcare as a job count as clinical hours? They do usually ask you to specify what role you had, so just make sure you're specifying in the app. Iman says, you didn't agree with this score. I believe you can get in anywhere you like. Yeah, kind of, yes and no. It really does depend. Like there are people who get into good schools with a 506. Just there's a lot that goes into that as well. Is it true that those who go to DO schools have a hard time matching to anything other than family med? No, there are a lot of people who go into other specialties. They do tend to cluster more frequently around the primary care specialties, though. So like family care and OB are the most common, but there are DO grads who get into more subspecialties as well. But yeah, statistically, the medical schools do slightly prefer the MD, but I have worked with, I cannot even count how many talented DOs I've worked with in emergency medicine and surgeons and family care doctors. So there are so many awesome DOs. I don't think should be a barrier whatsoever. But again, you can apply broadly to both. And if you do get into an MD, you can accept it. And if you do get into a DO and not an MD, that's a great path also. I work as a CNA. Will that work? Or should I go and find other options for hours? So it's okay to count those hours as part of it. Just make sure you also have experience shadowing an actual physician so that you see sort of that like that care, that type of provider practice needs to be something you have directly interacted with. And depending on the hospital or the clinic, some CNAs don't get a lot of access to that. So that is super, super important. All right, guys, I'm going to try to wrap up here probably in the next like 2 to 3 minutes. So if you can, please do go ahead and drop any other questions you have here. Do not forget, I will change my text up here and just mention email matt@mcatboss.com for help with apps or the MCAT. Just so everybody can see that for the next couple minutes, drop any other general questions you guys have here. Let's see. Let me make this a little bit bigger and we'll get through these last few questions, guys. Do I still have a chance at med school if I had a lower GPA? Yes. There, again, let me know what you mean by lower GPA, because some people say that and they mean they had a 2, and some people say a lower GPA and they mean they had a 3.4, and a 3.4, lots of people get in. A 2, that is harder, much harder. Next one says, I shadowed an OMF surgeon. Would this look good to include in my app? Yes. OMF is still, most OMFs are actually MDs and DDS, if I remember correctly. Myself, I says, thanks. I've shared your profile with my son. I appreciate the info. Awesome. Thank you so much. Please do. It helps so much, guys. Any shares, anything we can get to get people good information and help them on their journey to becoming a doctor. And now that the US is finally doing more MD with bachelor's, the BSMD route, I love the fact that there are a lot of young people who are trying to get on this path sooner. That is the way that Europe has been doing it for a long time. And it's really, really, really valuable to know that if you do know that you want that and you're already a high school student, you're really close to getting on that path towards the white coat. What time to go online? So I try to mix it up a little bit depending on when my other board meetings and sessions and things like that are. So if sometimes I come on in the afternoon, a lot of times I try to actually split it on the extremes. I either like to jump on early, like 7 a.m. or later in the evening, like 9 p.m. But follow along. If it helps more people, I will try to start announcing either the morning of or day before for the lives. I typically find that it doesn't make a huge difference for turnout, but if it helps more people, I might start doing that. Let me know, guys. Bones says, I got a 514. I'm thinking about retaking. Okay, Bones, I am more than happy to help you with planning out your retake. That is my jam. I love helping people with that. probably helped a couple hundred people on jumping their retakes up, including people who've only taken it once and people who found me after taking it like 5 times and they need to switch up. I just heard back from a student who found me after he took the MCAT 5 times. And then he worked with me, took it again, and he got into med school. So if you need help, please don't hesitate at all to drop me a line. You can direct email me, matt@mcatboss.com. Guys, if you're looking for the biggest discount possible when you do tutoring hours with me, please do mention that you found me on the live so I can get you the same day discount, because it helps save a chunk. I like to thank my people for finding me. Lil Rico, so students spend anywhere. I'm completely transparent with pricing. Drop me a line, by the way. Students spend anywhere from like $240 an hour working with me all the way down to in the mid hundreds. It totally depends on how many hours they're working with me and if they're booking me like same day and they get that big chunky 30% discount. If you find me through one of the companies that I work with, the prices can be closer to that like 200 or 300 mark. And if you find me during like the worst of the worst rush hour, like right during like MCAT crush season in April, it can actually be quite a bit more than that, just because I get a few hundred inquiries. So I do enjoy helping people. The thing you have to remember is main thing you have to remember is if you ever are in the possible range of spending like $5,000 to apply in a cycle when you haven't prepped properly, and then you end up going into like a master's program and spending 50 or 60,000 because you have not prepped the way that you need to, the costs for applying to med school without proper prep really truly do stack up quite a bit. The difference between somebody who spends that money with working with a professional like me or somebody else has my level of experience and working with one of the big MCAT companies is the big MCAT companies essentially will require you to sit down and re-listen to the same 200 hours of lectures that you already got in your science classes. And I do not do that. I try to customize absolutely everything for my students. So, all right, guys, with that, I will go ahead and sign off. Don't forget to like and save, and I will see you guys next time. Remember to keep the momentum. Medical education is a long journey, but you got this. Just be methodical. Figure out what the best path is for you. Reach out for help if you need help. And just keep putting one foot in front of the other, because the moment you walk across that stage and they say the doctor is walking across the stage, you will realize that you did it. You did the path of 1,000